Welcome to another episode of Transformer CEOs. It was a real delight this week to be joined by Mark Cuddigan, CEO at This, a leading plant protein business. Mark is a serial CEO, having transformed and built a number of businesses in the food sector. Mark leads with the heart. And among his key messages are the amazing transformative effect you can achieve by focusing on culture, freeing up employees to be part of something great. How he wasn't really ready for CEOship, but it turned out he was through great mentoring, and how the most important quality for a transformer CEO, in his opinion, is kindness. In addition to Transformer CEOs, I run a successful advisory and consulting company working with CEOs, chairmen, and investors to deliver successful business transformations. I believe you're going to enjoy this episode with Mark, and please remember to leave comments because here at Transformer CEOs, we love your feedback. So Mark, serial entrepreneur, a serial transformer CEO, and I think you've even worked for a serial company, right?
I did. Yeah. Nice.
But I think one of your big epiphanies was during your time at Ella's Kitchen, where you realized that CEOs have a purpose beyond simply making money.
Yes. Well, I would say business as well, not just CEOs. So I learned from Paul Lindley when I spoke to him, gosh, it must have been, I'm really bad with dates, but let's call it 15 years ago. Probably was about 15 years ago. And he talked about the purpose of Ella's Kitchen, which was around children's health and nutrition. And it was the time, I mean, if you can think back that far, people weren't really talking about purpose in business. And now it's become a huge thing and lots of books written about it. And there are movements and all sorts of things. But back then it was quite kind of novel. And I remember being quite confused because I thought the purpose of business was to make money, to treat people well and the environment well, and to lead with integrity and things like that. But I didn't really understand that there was sort of this separate part to business that was almost kind of charity-like in its way. So it was kind of meeting Paul and being inspired by his vision for the company at the time that, had a huge impact on me. And actually, joining Ella's Kitchen changed my life in like many, many ways.
And what was it he said or did that inspired you so much?
Well, it was simply the fact that Ella's mission, its core mission, was around children's health and nutrition. It wasn't to make money. And I think it was that idea, together with something that I read about, it was a story I read in the paper about, actually with some French workers who worked at Microsoft, who read about a problem that the UN had. And anyway, it's a long story. Do you want me to tell you the story?
Sure.
It's a long story. Okay, well, so the UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, they are responsible for looking after refugees, particularly in war-torn countries. And if you can imagine, fleeing persecution, one of the first problems you face is food, safety, and security. Believe it or not, closely after that is a kind of like a loss of identity. So imagine you're going into a camp, we've got the UN, like around the UNHCR at the moment around Ukraine, and you're going into camp and you have the problems of food, safety, security, but that loss of identity is like a really powerful thing because you've got no passport, no wallet, no phone, because this was back in 1996.
Right.
So it's a long time ago. And there's a true story of three French Microsoft technicians having lunch in Paris, and they're talking about the problems it was in Le Monde, I think, the French newspaper, and it had highlighted the problem the UNHCR were having in Bosnia, where you had, I think it was 650,000 people left Bosnia over a long weekend going into a camp of over 1 million people. And they have the problems with food, safety, security, the loss of identity, really powerful thing. And then also parents getting displaced from their children. We were just talking about our children earlier.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're going to a camp of over 1 million, you're going over rocky terrain and you're fleeing, a really difficult situation, and you lose your kids. How long before you see them again? Mm-hmm. 6 months, a year? You may never see them again. So these three French Microsoft technicians were talking about it, and one turned to the other two and said, well, so the UN, they need a program which is going to give them the ability to give people instant identification, but then also track people so they can match families and grandparents up and, together, I want to sort of reiterate, this is 1996. Mm-hmm. So this is pre-mobile phones. This is pre the amazing tracking technology that the army brought in. Mm-hmm. And the other two were like, yeah, he said, well, we're pretty good at this. We can do this, can't we? So he went to his boss, It went all the way to the Microsoft board in North America. They said, fine, crack on, have a go. They sent 30 French technicians out to the Balkans. Within 3 months, they'd solved the problem. And they came up with this, you could tell they probably need to work in marketing. It was just like, they called it the field sales kit. And it was a briefcase. Mm-hmm. It was just a really cool briefcase, which gave the UN the ability to take photos, give instant identification, but then somehow they had the technology where they could track people and match families up together. And I read about this, I think like a month or two before meeting Paul, and I thought about it and I thought, wow, there's probably not another company in the world that could have achieved what Microsoft achieved. If you think about the creativity, the technical brilliance, and the know-how to do what needed to be done.
Yep.
And often when we talk about the sort of the social and environmental problems we have in the world and in society, whether it's locally in the UK, let's think about locally in the UK. Who is supposed to fix these problems? Is it the government? And when we talk about the government, who do we mean? Do we mean Keir Starmer? Do we mean the cabinet? Do we mean all MPs? Do we mean the House of Lords? Where are these amazing, magical, mystical people that can solve these really complex problems? I fundamentally believe they're actually not in government. Maybe sometimes they are. They're in our companies. And if you look at, Ella's Kitchen, where I was for over a decade, we were experts when it came to children's health and nutrition because we were spending money in areas that no one else was because it was our mission, because it's why Paul set the company up. So we could do things and we changed laws and regulations because we could prove things that no one else is looking for. And I guess then meeting Paul is just something kind of, it was almost like a religious, epiphany, I suppose. And I don't want to sound like too corny, but something flipped in my head, which is like, wow, if businesses can turn this amazing knowledge and creativity they have towards helping solve social and environmental problems, that's going to be amazing because we're going to solve things that wasn't possible to solve before. And if you just look at it from a business point of view, so if you're only interested in money, sort of shame on you. But anyway, I don't want to get loads of people anti me already in the beginning of the podcast. But if you're only interested in money, you're going to make more money if you do this. Because what do you think, if you're one of those 30 French technicians who went out to the Balkans and were part of solving this problem, what do you think, what are you going to think, what do you think they feel about the work that they did? What do you think?
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And do you think they're ever going to be involved in anything as life-changing? Or the French, team that supported them?
It'll be difficult to do an Excel update after that, wouldn't it?
Well, it really would, wouldn't it? But it's like, but that's fundamentally, and I'm sure we'll get into this, is where do you get fulfillment from at work? And so for me, it was just like, well, it's a no-brainer. Like, if you're only interested in money, like, run your business the right way and you'll make more money because you get more engaged people. And the whole thing kind of works. It's a circular thing that goes round, right? Yeah. So that meeting Paul and sort of being inspired, I suppose, and almost indoctrinated into this idea of the very purpose of business is not just to make money, and I'm sure we'll get into the B Corp chat later, is changed my life.
Fantastic. What a story. I'm glad you shared it. So I guess at some point you rose up through the ranks and you got to the top job.
Yeah.
What was your first top job?
I mean, I joined a nuts and snacks company, out of university. So I used to teach tennis professionally and I teach my kids. Okay. And then I joined this nuts and snacks company, became kind of sales director there, did that for 13 years, I think. Became a sort of minority shareholder in the business. So that was a kind of top-ish job, and we sold that business to a PLC, and it did very well. And then I brought a granola cereal company, hence your pun earlier. And so it's a breakfast cereal company, built that up and sold that. So I've kind of been in the kind of, I hate the word, and I'm almost gonna like be sick, I suppose, but this sort of C-suite, I don't know why, I have an allergic reaction to it. I hate it. But anyway, so I've been around that.
Do you have an alternative that you prefer to be known as?
It just feels, it's a bit like the CEO. I'm sorry. I know your podcast is called Transformer.
That's okay. We take all feedback here. Don't worry.
But it's like, I don't know. It feels a bit elitist, doesn't it? It's like, you think of the CIA it's just like this, because I fundamentally believe that everybody's voice is as important as anyone else in a business. And I know you have to have some sort of hierarchy, but I just dislike hierarchy. And I've totally lost my train of thought.
We were talking about you being in the top job, and I have other questions for you around that, but you were telling the story, I think, and how you feel about the role in this label.
Yeah, so I feel a bit awkward about the label. And then I went to Ella's Kitchen and took on the sales role and then the marketing role, and then the business was sold to American PLC. I became co-CEO with this guy called James McMaster, who's now CEO of Huel. And we did that for 9 months, and James left, and then I did it myself. But I can honestly say, when Paul Lindley asked me to be co-CEO with James, my first thoughts were, it's not going to happen. And I remember calling my dad. My mum sadly had passed away. She passed away like 20 years ago, nearly. And I remember calling my dad saying, well, it won't happen, but how exciting that Paul has even asked me, because I absolutely categorically didn't think I could do it. Without doubt, I didn't think I was up to the job. I didn't believe in myself that I could be co-CEO with James. I was really pleased that we were doing it together, because I felt I needed someone to do it with. And then when James left, I was thinking, well, I can't. Like, why is I can't do this?
So the piece about this won't happen, was that based on your own self-perception at the time? This won't happen because I'm not going to let it happen? Or did you feel there was other forces at play?
I think it's just insecurity. It's just genuinely feeling, well, I'm not up to the job. Yeah. But isn't it great that he's asked me?
Yeah, absolutely. Very flattering. So what was it you felt wasn't there that should have been there? Or help us unpack that.
I guess Paul saw something in me that I didn't see. Yeah. It's as simple as that. He had great belief that I could do the job. And it was very much his baby, even though it had been sold. Ella's his eldest daughter. And I know and knew how important it was to him. It was like his third child. And so he had this belief that I was the person to take care of his third child. Yeah. Him and Alison's third child. And I just thought, well, I'm not capable of doing it.
What was it? And maybe you asked Paul subsequently, but what was it that Paul saw in you that maybe you didn't see in yourself?
I've never asked him.
Okay.
I'm not sure I've ever. I don't know at what point it was. It was
still speaking you too?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I was texting him on the way here. But what point is it good to say that to him? Probably not after he's asked you to say, "Hey, I definitely can't do this." But what did you see in me that makes you think? He'd be like, "Oh, okay, maybe you're not the person for the job." No, I don't think I've ever admitted that to him. That I. Definitely thought there's no way I am good enough to do what you're asking me to do. Because I guess that would have shown a huge vulnerability that at the time I probably wasn't capable of showing.
So what changed? You went into it. Someone persuaded you to do it nevertheless. Was that Paul?
It was Paul, yeah.
Paul. Okay. So take me through the first few days, maybe. Days is probably enough. I suspect that was probably quite traumatic for you if you were feeling that way. What happened in the first few days? And at what point did you start to believe that actually maybe I can do this? Did that point come?
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, I am quite ambitious, so that's kind of inside me. So I think even though I had this crushing insecurity that I couldn't do it was also, and there's probably a bit of ego thrown in as well, sort of ambition and ego that, well, I've just got to do it. He's asked me to do it and I've got to do it. At what point did that go? I'm not entirely sure. I think it takes a while. There's this amazing TED talk by this lady called Amy Cuddy.
Mm-hmm.
Have you?
I have. Mm-hmm.
And her premise is, I'll condense her 20-minute TED talk, because it's hers, into 30 seconds. Her premise is like, most of us, when we're promoted, we're promoted above our station. And I was talking to someone about this the other day, and they were saying, well, I'm not sure this person's ready to be promoted. I'm like, no one's ever ready to be promoted. And if they are, they're being promoted too late. And the idea, you're promoted. So you're being given a role and responsibility that is greater than what you are currently doing.
Yeah.
You don't know if someone can do it until you ask them to do it. And almost like judging that, well, I don't think they're going to be able to do it. Well, they haven't done it yet. I mean, that's really unfair. So her sort of premise is, most of us, when we're promoted into something, have this lack of confidence. We maybe think we're not able to do this. What do you think when Keir Starmer walked through 10 Downing Street for the first time? Do you think he walked in and went, yeah, I've got this. I am made for this. I am the best Prime Minister. He probably walked through and was like, shit, like, what do I do now? And her premise is, just fake it. Fake it. Because someone else believes you can do it. So Paul believed I could do it. So just fake it. And she says, fake it, not till you make it, fake it till you become it. And keep faking it. And there will be a moment in time when you look back and go, oh, do you know what? I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And this is okay. And I guess you just get comfortable in, and I don't know when it happened, but you just get comfortable that actually I'm doing a pretty good job.
Good for you. Good for you. And the co-CEO thing is kind of unusual.
Yeah.
But sounds like it really helped in your situation.
It really helped. And probably looking back, Paul was hedging his bets a little bit. He was thinking,
maybe he was building your readiness.
Yeah, well, maybe. But I mean, I'd have to ask him why he did that. But maybe he thought I wasn't quite ready, either of us. And maybe he thought both of us needed the support of the other one.
Yeah.
Or maybe he wanted both of us to stay in the business and thought, if you promote one, the other will leave. And actually, I want both to stay. But whatever his feelings were, it definitely worked for me anyway. And James, I would say.
And then you said somebody left the picture and you became sole CEO?
Yeah, so James left. And after, I think it was quite quick, after 8 or 9 months.
Oh, right.
And then it was just me.
And how was just me?
It was fine. I was scared that it wouldn't be fine, but you know what? It was all right.
It worked. Excellent. So, I mean, I guess one of my questions, which we kind of touched on a little bit already, is what did Paul see? What did others see in you? But let's turn that question a little bit into, what did the organization see in you? Because I guess for further changes to happen in the hierarchy, the decision makers must have felt, well, this guy's got it, or he's getting it, and we've got full confidence. What do you think the organization was seeing?
In me and my leadership? Honestly, I don't think you can, I'm going to argue against myself here. I don't think, I was asked the other day, I did a talk at a girls' school, and the girls were between 8 and 12, I think. And this little girl, she was 8 or something, she put her hand up at the end and went, I want to be a CEO when I'm older. And I was like, great, She goes, what one piece of advice would you give me? And I said, I don't think you can be a CEO unless you have amazing self-awareness. And then I had to explain what self-awareness was. She didn't understand. And I think the teacher was looking at me going, no, this isn't the talk we want. If we wanted something a little bit more basic. And resilience, I put on, I think you need resilience.
Okay.
But I hope they saw someone that cared hugely and prioritized them. And one of the things I've been most proud of in my career is when Paul said to me, because Paul was amazing, he was this visionary leader, and he transformed my life, and I love him to bits. But when he said to me, I took his baby and made it better. And we can talk about what better means. And yeah, so for me, that's amazing.
So it's clear who inspired you along the way. That seems self-evident. What about the goal? Because you mentioned you were ambitious as well. So when did the CEO-ship, whether you felt you were ready or not, when did the CEO-ship look within grasp to you?
I didn't have this like grand scheming, your Bond like villain vision to be CEO. It wasn't like, but I think probably the biggest driver, weirdly, is I don't like being told what to do. And I find it, and it's without question. Actually, no, my kids and my wife say there were way more worse traits, but I would say my worst trait is my defensiveness. And if it was an Olympic sport, I would be like absolutely hands down gold to me. Every 4 years, people wouldn't turn up because I would win. And so that defensiveness is like really, really bad when people criticize the business or the team. I'm a little bit better with me, but like generally, I don't like being criticized and I don't like being told what to do. And there's a good side to that, which is I give my team absolute autonomy. And I think you can't have a thriving, happy culture without it. And it's my absolute sacrosanct big thing in business. You have to have the right team, and you have to have the right structure, and you have to have the right strategy, and you all have to know the direction in which you're going. Otherwise you get chaos. But once you've got those things, you can start to put proper empowerment and autonomy in the team. And then you will have an incredible culture, and you will achieve amazing things.
Fantastic. Well, definitely. And I heard you talk about that before, Mark, as well. So we'll come back to that a little bit later in our chat, if we may. But you mentioned another stakeholder group, a very important stakeholder group, which was family and children. So as they saw you rise through the ranks, what was their role, and what were their observations?
I don't think they were even aware. I mean, the kids aren't even aware, except when I used to pick them up from school. And hilarious. Like I've got two girls, they're now 15 and 13. And I picked them up from school, and I'd start giving them kind of a lecture about I don't know what it would be. I'd be trying to say, the purpose of this or this, and my youngest would go, oh. And I'd be like, what? And she'd talk to my other child, Mimi. She'd go, Mimi, Daddy's come from work. We're about to get the B Corp chat. I was like, what? So can you just put the radio on? I'm like, no, this is an important point. Yeah. We've had it all
you
before.
Testing your lines in the car or something?
No, I was just trying to impart some sort of wisdom, and they were just like, yeah, no, not interested, Daddy. That's just boring. Yeah. So I'm definitely, all ego is completely kept in check by the family, who really don't give
Keep you humble.
They don't give a shit.
But you sound like a very humble gentleman.
Who?
You.
Do I?
Yeah, you do.
No, they don't care. I mean, they loved coming to Ella's Kitchen when I was, as they would call inverted commas, the boss, because they could just run the rule, and they would take and they like on the tannoys, and they absolutely loved it. But no, they're not interested in what I get up to. No.
So forget humility, because the next part I'd like to talk about is what have you transformed? So tell us about some of the big swings you've taken and some of the high notes you've reached. Can
I be really self-involved?
Of course.
Like this, yes. Just maybe we'll edit this bit out, right? Maybe, so we'll just have a chat and edit it out, because I don't want people to think I'm a complete arsehole. I would say myself, and with the help of my wife, who has been like instrumental in this. But having had, I don't want to go into it in great detail, but and people are talking about it a lot at the moment, aren't they? But I would say significant childhood trauma, coming from being sent away to school, which is a very privileged thing, but aged 8, and that was it. So like 75% of my life was away from home, and it was incredibly difficult, and I hated it, and it had a huge impact on me psychologically and the way I behaved and the relationships that I was able to form. And I think through a combination of like work and enabled me to be really good at what I did, but probably not at a deep level. And I would say through help from my wife, through kind of therapy, I've managed to get to a place where I've kind of understood rather than trying to like shut that off and go, oh, I'm just going to bury that really deep and not deal with it. And again, this is a terrible thing, you know, when people talk about growing and all this sort of stuff. But I think I've come to terms with the trauma and the impact it had on me. And it's taken a long, long time to be in a place where I'm happy with myself, I suppose, and accepting of it, I suppose.
Amazing. So your big transformation is you. Yeah.
And I think I would hope that's, you know, changed how I am in business and how I am with my friends and that ability, you know, I'll give you an example that, you know, my wife would say to me, you know, I need you to be vulnerable. And I genuinely didn't understand what she meant. And I thought there was something, I get upset here, but I thought there was something like wrong with me. There was I was broken in some way. And actually it turns out I was. And because if you're sent away at that age, you basically just become an island, because you become totally self-sufficient because you're taught that, you know, no one's there for you. Feelings aren't there to be expressed or you'll get bullied, you know? And so with help, I've kind of come to understand what that means. And, you know, she's taught me that you can't really have a strong, meaningful connection with someone if you're not vulnerable.
Amazing. And thank you for being so candid.
Yeah, maybe we'll edit that out because it now feels really like I've just had a free therapy session.
No, but it explains a lot of who you are. And undoubtedly that's going to shape your style and your leadership and how you think about other people as well, which if we may, we'll chat about in a minute. But talk as well about the businesses that you've been transforming, because you've done some remarkable things.
Yeah, I would say,
doing some remarkable things.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I would say you know the last couple of things I've done. You know, Ella's, it was taking a great company and hopefully making it greater, but it already had an amazing culture and all these sorts of things. I suppose the biggest transformation, and I was talking to the team about it yesterday, is I joined the plant-based UK food company, This. We do an amazing plant-based food. Here's my plug. Everybody go and buy it, like help save animals and save the world. And we do kind of what you call meat alts. So things like chicken and burgers and sausages that are made from plants, just plants. And then we just launched this incredible chickpea tofu, and we do a superfood. So we're playing in that area, I guess, of the supermarket. But one of the reasons I joined the company just over 18 months ago was two amazing founders, Pete and Andy, who set the company up, real visionaries as well, like Paul. They felt that the company had lost its soul. And one of the reasons that they hired me was to like focus on the culture and transform the culture. And at the time, the company, for a whole variety of reasons, it had a net promoter score. The worst it had been is minus 30.
Okay.
Now the best it had been, I think, was like minus 25.
Ooh, okay.
And I didn't actually know, do you know the net promoter?
Yes, I do.
I didn't know you could have minus. And so that was a surprise. And so I joined the company, and that was like for a variety of reasons. But the number one is, can we do something extraordinary and transform the culture? And I remember being asked, and by the way, I hate the idea that a CEO can be like so important in a company, because we talked about hierarchy before. Yeah. But the school that my girls are at is having a few issues at the moment, and it all relates to a lot of it often relates to the head teacher.
Yeah.
Because the head teacher sets the vision. Are the teachers happy? Then are the kids happy?
Yep.
And I remember being asked in the first couple of weeks by essentially the first week by someone at this, how long do you think it would take, like talking philosophically, for a CEO to transform the culture of a business? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, but flip it the other way. How long would it take if a CEO came into a business for them to ruin the culture? And I reckon they could do it in a month. A month. By coming in, by treating the senior team really badly, by putting in, we talked about fear before, by creating a fearful atmosphere, by blaming people. So you create this blame culture, so creativity dies. By maybe creating chaos, by taking away people's autonomy. I think you can do it in a month. And it is we, it's not me. What we have managed to do, and we can talk through how, is in 18 months, we've gone from like really poor, minus 35%, to plus 64%. So we've gone from, and that's a huge.
That's an enormous.
Huge. It's an enormous swing. And I was saying to the guys on Tuesday, guys and girls at work, like, I came here to do something extraordinary with you. And I want you to know, I was like, thank you, but I want you to know that we have already done something extraordinary. Because we've, you could write a book almost, it wouldn't be a very long book, but you could write a book on how have we managed to transform the culture. And I said, it's something that I will always be proud of. Those nursing home moments where you're 90, you're looking back in your career. I'm like, this will be a career highlight, how we have accomplished this together. I'm like, it is extraordinary.
So I have two burning questions on either side of my head. One is, I guess, why was it so low? Why, clearly number one issue for the founders, and you and I can both appreciate why having it so low would be a massive issue. So let's start there.
I mean, there are a whole number of issues why it was so low. It's better to talk about the positives, I suppose, in terms of what we said about changing. First thing looked at, and I said to the founders, I remember in my interview process, because they are passionate vegans, and for them, it's all about saving animals,
right?
And stopping people or inspiring people to stop eating animals. And I said to them, I think the first thing we've got a problem with is the mission. And they're like, okay. And I said, I think not everybody, but a good percentage of people who work at this because of the environmental benefit if we get people to transition away from eating animals, because, the farty cows and all this sort of thing. So, it's not me. There's lots of people who've said, if there's one thing you could do to help the environment, is stop eating animals. I said, can we change the mission? And it was a good sort of litmus test for me in terms of how much autonomy am I going to get? And they were like, yeah, fine. If you want to do that. And I said, well, we'll go away as a team and we'll discuss whether the team want to do it. And the team did want to do it. So we changed it. So we changed it away from just animals to being animals in the environment. So that's why we're in business. We looked at the values, which I think were quite kind of blokey. So we talked to the whole team and said, like, if you want to get involved in looking at the values, so we changed the values. So it's like softer things. We wrote a strategy for the first time. So the business hadn't had a strategy. It was super entrepreneurial, and the founders like loads of ideas. But as a result, and they would say, well, one of them said, we had to take a self-awareness pill and realize we weren't the people to take the business on the next, the next part of its journey. And they would say, we just said yes to everything. And a consequence of saying yes to everything is you get this sort of chaos. So we went away as a senior team and we wrote kind of a one-page strategy. And then this is what's really important to me in businesses. Then every function would then build a strategy that laddered up to the main strategy. And every single person was involved in building the strategy. So we've all got this collective, it's not my strategy, it's not the senior team, it is our strategy that we've built. And there are lots of people said to me, well, I've never built a strategy before. I'm like, well, throw yourself in, you're going to have fun. And I remember my ops director saying, ordinarily he would have gone and written it himself, But he asked his team to do it and he didn't even get involved in it. So he gave them some parameters. And I remember him calling me and saying, oh my God, what they've written is so much better than what I would have come up with. So you start to get this, okay, so we're in this together. We're not being told what to do. This feels different.
Well, I was going to say, to your point of changing culture in a month, people could tell through that exercise alone that your passion for empowerment meant something.
Yeah. And it was, and then I think it was 6 or 7 weeks after I joined, because we do it twice a year, we check the NPS score, and it had gone to, I think it was -15.
Okay.
And the co-founder's like, this is amazing. And I'm like, no, this is awful, guys. This is like, I was like, oh my God, I failed. But it was only 6 or 7 weeks in. And I think everyone was like, yeah, we're not sure we believe that this is the new way it's going to happen. But a consequence of having a really good strategy and deciding what we're not going to do and focusing on the things that we're going to do, and everybody knows what their team is, how their team contributes to it and how they then contribute to it, you can start to put autonomy through the team. And I fundamentally believe you can't be happy at work if you don't have autonomy. So if I tell you to do something and you go and do it, you're not going to go home at the end of the day and go, that was a really good day. You're just not. But if I say to you, Erik, oh, well, here's this problem that we're trying to solve for. Can you go away with your team? And yeah, I've got this. And you go away with your team and you solve the problem or come up with a solution, and then you start delivering it. You can think, that was a pretty good day. And every day should be like that. So I'm a big believer. And I remember in my last few years at Ella's Kitchen, I made a vow to myself initially, and then the whole team, that I would not make another single decision in running the business. I'm like, if you see me making decisions, come and like reprimand me, but I will be involved. So if you're the marketing director at this, Debbie, you're the boss. You are in charge of marketing. She will come and we will chat through ideas and I'll give her my creative ideas. But at the end of the day, it's her call on 100% of what she does. Except spending money, by the way. She hasn't got. But then she needs to talk to James, who's our finance director. But I'm just a huge believer. And that's why I don't like people telling me what to do, because I'm not going to tell the team what to do. And I think then you start to drive this engagement. People are happy. They're making their own decisions. They get pride. And that's a big thing. You start to get pride in the work that you're doing. And it changes everything.
And did that give you the reaction you wanted to see?
Yeah. You can feel it. You can feel the energy.
Right.
As you walk in the office, because people feel what? They feel trusted. And it's great to feel trusted. The opposite is a horrible emotion.
Yeah. So NPS started to rise.
NPS started to rise.
Did anything else start to rise?
I guess cross-team collaboration started to rise. We've stripped out, and the co-founders started this, we've stripped out a huge amount of complexity in the business. We've gone from 19 manufacturers to 2.
Wow.
From over 100 products, we went down to 44. So we're really focused and driving our margins. That was the first thing we wanted to do, because we loss-making business. And
so margins are rising?
Margins have gone from a low point of, I think it was nearly minus 25. And then now plus 25. So there's been a huge change that has happened. And some of that obviously predated me. And now we've got this really stable business, I suppose. We're almost at a point where we stop losing money every month. And now we need to focus on growth.
And I was going to say, now there's a growth phase then. So that's the next thing you want to see.
So stable, rise. And now it's let's go to growth. And I'm obsessed. There was an NFL coach called John Grondon who was talking about teams. I mean, he was talking about sports teams in particular. And he said, the thing about teams, and I actually was thinking about this morning coming up when Crystal Palace beat Liverpool in the EFL Cup. Sorry if you're a Liverpool fan. And he said, the thing about teams is they never stay the same. You either get better or you get worse. And I think the same is in business. You either get better or you get worse. And I did this thing on Tuesday, and I said, can everyone stand up who's joined the company in the last 6 months? I think 8 people stood up. And I'm like, I'm not saying you're intrinsically better than the people that left, right? Because that's like rude. But I'm like, but what I see when I look around, the 8 of you is like awesome. You know, you're taking us forward in all of your individual areas. You're bringing ideas. You're just making us stronger as a business. And I said to everyone, that is our challenge. As people leave, we need to take a step forward and we need to just get better and better and better, because what we're trying to achieve with regards to our mission is really, really important. And it's the other reason why I joined the company is like, what an amazing opportunity and responsibility to change what people eat and the impact that has on animals in the environment. But it's a huge challenge. And I'm like, stakes are pretty high.
No pun intended.
No pun intended, no.
So why is it they say 70% of transformations are unsuccessful?
I've absolutely no idea. Why? You might have to look like you've got the answer to that.
No, I didn't do the research, but it's widely cited. I'm wondering if part of the reason is that the focus tends to be very much on top line, bottom line, operational matters, but much less so on the kind of leadership, cultural aspects, which you've talked very eloquently about, which are actually enduring as well. So you might make a quick fix on costs, for example, but within months, the organization boomerangs back to where it was, and therefore the transformation's unsuccessful because the underlying issues around who's in the organization, how is it led, how is it rewarded, have not actually been addressed.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I don't know. My guess would be, I mean, it's really simple, isn't it? I mean, it's just all about the people. And the Peter Drucker quote about how culture eats strategy for breakfast. The reason, and I know it's an often quoted line, isn't it? But the reason being is you can have the best strategy in the world. Like, it's an absolute, deal breaker, better than anything ChatGPT can come up with, right? But who's gonna make it successful? It's just words on a page. That's all it is. It's clever words on a page. Well, actually, it shouldn't even be clever words. The simpler, the better, right? But it's the people. And if you've got engaged, happy, supported, psychologically secure people who feel they're part of something that's important and are going to work hard for that, and are invested in it, then you're much, much more likely to be successful. It doesn't mean you're going to be successful because you still got to have a good idea or a good product or a good service. So I would say probably it's like a cultural transformation. Simon Sinek talks about it, how time and again, and I've been part of a bit part of this when it fails. And he says, if you want to put forward a cultural transformation in a business, he said, what generally happens is the senior team go away, they come up with some values, they do the sort of ticks on a note board, or tick the one you like, and everyone ticks integrity because every business has got to have integrity, and everyone ticks kindness without actually specifying what that means, and the words that you should use around it, that sort of thing. And we all end up with kind of the same thing, which is why, Enron, world's biggest scandal, their first value was integrity. Amazing that. Arthur Andersen, no longer with us, who were the auditors of Enron, guess what their first value was? It's integrity.
It's predictable,
it's like,
isn't it?
It's just, but it's like, it's brilliant, isn't it? But he talks about how it fails because what happens is the senior team go away, that they decide on this, and then they do this top-down thing. Hey, everybody! Whoa! new culture. Here it is. Let's go and do it. We'll do some workshops. Happy days. And he's like, no, that's not the way you do it. He said, particularly if you're doing it in a big business, he says, you need to forget most people in the business. And he said the way he approaches it, I think this is really cool, is he will do a speech and say, those of you that are interested, and I'll get back to, we did something similar recently on sustainability. He said, those of you who are interested in transforming the culture of this business, we'd love you to put yourselves forward. You're not going to get paid anything. You're not going to get any recognition from it. And your boss may not even know you're doing it. But that's fine. But if you are interested in being part of the culture and changing the culture in this business, please put yourself forward. It'll be more work as well for you, but please put yourself forward. And you'll get like 5% of the people. They are the change makers.
Interesting.
They are the ones that you need to almost target and speak to and inspire and get them to co-create it, because then they're going to go back into their business units or their functions, and they will be the agents of change. Not you to have like this top down, like talking about it. Yeah. No, you need the people who like really, really care, who are going to like pick up the mantle.
Yep.
Well, we did something recently. Luke, our sustainability director, said to the business, anybody who wants to put themselves forward for the sustainability team, we'd love you to put yourself forward. You won't get paid anything. You're not going to get any recognition. You can't really put it on your CV, and you're going to have to work a bit more. I'm really sorry. But if you are passionate about sustainability, I'd love you to have, on this sort of functional sustainability team. And then you get the people going out and people being like, feel like they're forced. Oh, we've got to have someone from our team. Come on, let's draw lots. Who's going to do it? It's like, no, you don't just get the people that are really, really interested in being part of that change.
Fantastic.
So that's probably why the cultural transformations don't work.
Could well be. So what about next gen CEOs coming up behind you? We're going to take over in Ella's or this. What's your advice to them? What are the top 1, 2, 3 maybe that they need to have in their back pocket, or more than in their back pocket, to be great successors to you and others?
Well, it's really hard, isn't it? Because there's so many different ways of leading. And it's not like, I'm going to talk about the things that are important to me, but there are, when you look at those kind of leadership wheels, like what type of leader are you going to be? And I'm not sure there's like kind of a right or wrong. I was listening to Rob Lowe podcast on the way up here, and he was talking about authenticity and the importance of being authentic. So I think that's like super important, because people can smell it when you're not being authentic. I think being self-aware, and so being self-aware of how people are looking at you, how your facial expressions, if you roll your eyes, you can't do that. And you've got to be consistent the whole time in a way that is quite tiring. I feel like I've always got to give energy and have this kind of energy that you give. And you've always got to be on your A game, because if you're not, you can literally, you can drag a room down and you can change the energy in a room. And having the self-awareness to realize that if you're in a bad mood, you can bring the energy down, you can bring other people down, you can decisions will happen which are the wrong decisions. And that's the responsibility that you can't do that. So I would say that's kind of the biggest thing. And then you've got to have resilience.
Say some more about resilience.
I think it's really, really important because of the issues you're going to come up with. No matter how many people you're kind of looking after in a way, you've got to have that ability to always be there for them. And it can be really difficult because you can have some significant, people problems.
Yep.
We talked before about, I don't really want to get into it, but the death of a colleague that I had, which was just unbelievably difficult to deal with, and deal with this sort of collective grief with people. And, to have the resilience to do that, it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to be able to take the knockbacks and things aren't always going to be good. They're not always going to go your way. And you've got to have that perseverance to kind of find a way. And you've got to be the person that sometimes leads on that when people lose their faith that whatever needs to happen is going to happen. You've got to be the one going, not blindly, but be going, we can find a way. Let's work it through. And, if you're the one going, you know what, you're right. It's not going to happen, is it? No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Life is about, and it is a truism that in our hardest moments, we learn more about ourselves and our ability that then goes on. You talk about transformation. Those are the moments that transform us. So those are the moments when, it's all very well being in a company, living values and everything's great and cuddly when everything's great and you're growing and you're making loads of profit and you're doing it every year. It's pretty easy. But what happens when you face your first downturn? Do you stop, or your first crises? Do the values go out the window and you start behaving not how you behaved before and you start taking people's autonomy away and blaming people? Is that how no, you can't. That goes back to the consistency thing.
Absolutely. And the authenticity, I guess, as well. But how do you stay on your game? I think you said something along those lines. So important. How do you keep the energy high when your energy is low? How do you deal with the grief when you're grieving yourself? These are realities. Absolutely. So moving on a little bit, but building on the same themes, Mark, you've talked very eloquently about leadership and culture. And you've mentioned talent. You talked about the example of 8 people standing up in the room and how kind of shiny and the future they were and renewing the organization. Dig a bit deeper into your approach when you're hiring talent into your business, which many CEOs say is it's either the number one, but it's definitely in the number 3 of issues they deal with. What are you thinking? What are you looking for? What do you feel when you meet people that's a connect?
I mean, one of the things I'm most proud of is at my time. I keep going back to Ella's Kitchen, but I was there such a long time. That everybody in my senior team was promoted from within, and most of them were women. And they've all gone on to do bigger things. And it's amazing. I guess it's a reflection of what happened to me is when you believe in somebody and you give them the maximum, I guess, opportunity to be successful. So you don't just like throw them in the swimming pool and expect them to swim, but you actually put everything in place that they're going to be successful, and then they are. It's just an amazing thing. That's a transformative thing because you're transforming. It's what happened to me. And I guess that's so promoting people from within. I mean, loyalty is one of my, I sound like the mafia, don't I? But it's one of my personal values. And that's something that I've been in my career like really, really proud of. So what am I looking for? Like people who are brilliant, people who are great team workers, people who can live the values. And I guess I don't want like loads of mini-me's, but something that's really, really important to me is their ability, if I'm going to give them total autonomy, their ability then to give their team autonomy and have the right structure and the right people in their teams to do that is really important to me.
So you want them to role model some of the things that you hold very dear, but not be a carbon copy.
Yeah, no, God, you don't want a carbon copy. That'd be awful.
What about your direct reports? Is there any specific overlay? You mentioned particularly the women who've gone on to do other thdo that have been in your top team. Is there any additional responsibility you have for the people who are kind of co-running the business with you?
What do you mean? Like what?
I just wonder, because they're your kind of closest circle.
Are you talking like drive me to work or?
Funnily enough, no, I wasn't thinking.
Walk my dog or?
Is there any overlay you put on that? For example, some people would say, well, I'm looking for the next CEO from that group. Or they might say, I'm looking for people who don't just run a function, but maybe run an enterprise. They have a bit of an enterprise leadership angle. Maybe they've been entrepreneurs in the past, for example. Or I may look for people who've done, they might be in marketing right now or in finance, but actually they've run a small business or a P&L somewhere and they have that experience. So sometimes CEOs put an overlay, if you like, on the experience for people who are closest to them.
I'm always looking for opportunities to broaden their horizons and to break down the traditional functions and move people within functions, because I'm a big believer that pretty much everybody can do everything. I actually couldn't be a finance director because I don't understand Excel. But let's just keep that between ourselves. Because unfortunately, when I was at university, there was no Excel. So nobody's ever actually taught me how to do Excel. So I can do an add up genuinely for like 10 things, but writing any sort of, do you even call it code in Excel?
I don't know.
You don't know either.
I don't know.
Shame on you.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I can't do anything else on Excel. But I feel that most people can do most jobs, given a month's training. I mean, I just think you can. So I'm a big believer in moving people between jobs. Yes, I've always got, I'm getting on a bit now, unfortunately, as everybody keeps telling me. I went to see Sting this week in concert. Talking to some people at work, I was like, I'm going to see Sting tonight at the Hammersmith Apollo because it's local to me. And they were like, who? I went, Sting, the Police. No. What?
Oh, really?
What are they? I'm like, oh my God. I mean, like, you talk about generational divides. It kind of reminds me of a conversation I had with someone at work in the pub. And they were saying to me that just out of nowhere, I can't remember where it came from, that Ollie Alexander from Years and Years, do you know who he is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ollie Alexander from Years and Years, I think musically more talented than David Bowie was. And I just looked and went, I'm not even having this conversation. I walked off. Anyway.
And you were at Coldplay the last time I spoke to you.
Yes,
so,
yeah. Like, I see how cool I am. You didn't have to bring that up. Definitely edit that out. And I was at rave the week before. But so I went to see Sting, who no one heard of, and then walked in. And I think I was probably the youngest person there, except for my wife, who would say she's 4 school years younger than me. Who says that? Aged 49. Like who? But whenever she met, he's 4 school years. I'm like, there's 3 years between us. 4 school years. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Anyway, so I felt really, really old. And now I've lost my train of thought. Why was I talking about age?
I think.
Oh, I know why.
Yeah,
okay, yes, I've got it. So yes, definitely always looking to give people more responsibility. So Luke at work, who's our innovation director, within a few months, I'd already asked him, he was passionate about sustainability and he's got so much passion. I was like, I want you to be sustainability director. And he's like, well, I'm not sure I know enough about it. I'm like, yeah, you do. And you can learn that, but you've got the passion. You can take people with you, like the Pied Piper. I'm like, I can help you. You've got this. So that's really important to me. And I am always looking for somebody who could take over from me when I leave the business, because I feel really, and I want to make this point really strongly, I feel very, very strongly that one of a CEO's responsibilities, or even actually go anywhere, go to the school that my girls are at the moment. The head teacher before was there for 17 years and she left and the board of governors have chosen someone else and it hasn't quite worked. Now, I would say her responsibility over the 17 years before would be thinking, who's going to be my successor?
Absolutely.
Definitely in the last couple of years, I need someone from the school who gets the values, who understands the teachers, who understands the culture, who understands like what's important to this school, because she had so much connection because she'd been there and she was there as a pupil as well.
Yep.
So been there a long, long time, who can take over from me. And time again, and it makes me really, really angry, Erik, is when you see businesses, a CEO leaves, they get a new CEO in, it doesn't work out, and things start to, they lose that kind of connection and stuff. Because I'm sitting there and the old CEO is probably sitting there, his or her ego, like raises up a bit and goes, yeah. And I remember meeting someone actually who was like a very important CEO. I won't say who he is, of a company. And he said to me, he was talking about his old company that had, when he was there, after he'd been there a few years, it was nominated like 5 years running. It was in the Sunday Times top 100 companies to work for. And he put his feet up on his desk in London and he was almost smoking a cigar, but wasn't. And he was saying to me, the thing is, Mark, when I was there, it's brilliant. Sunday Times, top 100 companies to work for, transform the culture. It was amazing. And I was like, brilliant. He goes, yeah, do you know what? It's shit now. Really gone downhill. And I just sat there thinking, how dare you? Like, how dare you? Because you're basically just saying, you're amazing. And I wanted to say, and actually, I probably should have done, and maybe I would say this now because I've got a bit more confidence in myself. Like, that's your fault. 100%. That is your fault, because you should have been training someone up who, if you're that brilliant, probably wasn't, but if you're that brilliant, why wasn't the next person, why hadn't you mentored the next person to be better than you? Because isn't that the thing? It shouldn't be like, oh, you're so no, someone should be better than you who's ready to take on. And that is, I think, one of the fundamental responsibilities of CEOs, if they truly give a shit about the company that they're working for and the people that they're in that company, and they really want it to go on and be better. Yeah. And it makes me really, really cross, as you can probably tell.
I can see you feel strongly about it, and so do I. And maybe that's one of the reasons why 70% of transformations don't work. CEO leaves and things fritter back to where they were. So building on that then, Mark, it sounds like internal succession, internal promotion, really important for the businesses you run.
Yes. And it's great. I mean, what is better in business than promoting someone and then seeing them shine? It's better than you doing it yourself. And it reminds me of talking about this, that if you think about the Olympics, so 100 meters running, right? It is a very singular sport. It is not a team sport. And Linford Christie won gold for Great Britain at the 100 meters. And he talks about how he then became a coach and a mentor to other Olympians. And when Mark Lewis Francis won gold for Great Britain, that meant more to him than when he did it himself. I mean, just think about it. Isn't that amazing?
That's great leadership, isn't it?
But it's also, but he's not lying. He's not saying, oh, I'm a wonderful person. He's saying, like, for him personally, he felt more pride and he got more from it than when he did it himself. And that is an elite, singular sport. So it's something for everyone to think about, isn't it? And it goes to, I'm talking about Simon Sinek again, but I remember seeing a story he did about trawlermen, and someone went overboard. And he goes, it's a very kind of like competitive kind of fishing. It's competitive fishing, right? Because you're trying to get the biggest catch and all this sort of stuff. And I'm going to condense this down because this podcast is already too long. I can't believe people are like still listening. But if you're still listening, someone went overboard and it was freezing cold water. And if you're overboard for, I don't know, not long. They've got no chance of surviving. And these other boats came together and other people got in the water and they saved this person. And he said, I promise you that that day and that moment, those fishermen, they will never get anything like, nothing will get close to the sense of fulfillment and achievement they had from saving someone who was a competitor. And he, Simon Sinek talks about it like, you can only get fulfillment at work in one way and one way only, and that's helping other people. That is it. So if we can kind of get these cultures where everybody's helping each other, what's going to happen? We're going to feel happy.
And is that where people get reward from in your organizations?
Well, you don't get financial reward, you get emotional reward. But but if you're helping other people and you're more senior and you're helping someone else, you're going to be more successful as a company, as well as having this amazing culture. So how do you, generate that kind of, that culture where people want to do it? But it's weird, isn't it? Because even if you're like really, really selfish, it feels good.
Yeah.
So do it more.
And I think once people experience that, it starts to change their outlook a little.
Yeah.
Final part of our conversations is around back to CEOs who do remarkable things. And I'm wondering, from your own experience and maybe from meeting peers who've done similar things, and you've already alluded to some of these points already, whether you're putting together a little bit of a mental map of, these are the things that leaders who do transformational things need to be.
I think I've spoken about them, the self-awareness, the resilience, the putting others before themselves, the genuinely caring, the consistency, showing up every day and being consistent. You can't be like nice one day and then like blaming people the next day. And, you know, how do you deal with crises as they develop and your priorities and like kind of living the values that it's all kind of intertwined for me as yeah.
And if you were picking one or two, and maybe it's an impossible question, if picking one or two, which are absolute non-negotiable, this has just got to be here, otherwise there's no conversation, what would that be?
In leadership?
Yeah, in out of what you've mentioned.
Genuinely caring.
Yeah.
Like really.
That's what I hear from listening to you.
Yeah.
You've said it many times, but your stories also recount genuine caring and kindness.
Yeah. That's
your number one.
That's my number one. Yeah.
Very clear. Very clear.
I'm sounding really worthy, aren't I? I've got this sort of my wife's head, like you know, or if she was here, she'd be rolling her eyes, you know.
I think you might be surprised.
I've definitely been judged at home sometimes. You're like, oh, you're all B Corp at work, but what about at home? I'm like, what?
Have you B Corp'd enough here? Because you haven't mentioned it specifically.
Gosh, we have not mentioned B Corp.
I know.
Once.
Kids will be envious.
No, I mean, what is going on? People in the B Corp world will be going, he's changed.
How does that inspire CEOs, transformational CEOs?
B Corp? I guess it's a philosophy, isn't it? And it started with the whole purpose-driven organizations. And, you know, it fundamentally has one aim. And a lot of people, actually a lot of B Corps don't know this as well. When the movement, and it is a movement, it's a community, but it's a movement. And it has one aim worldwide, which is to change how we measure success in business. That's it. And for me, being part of the movement, along with, you know, meeting Paul and all these things, has definitely transformed me, because I've kind of found home in a way in a business community, and being around these like-minded people who are doing amazing things. That is just like super, super inspiring. But just also being around these people that believe the same thing as you, that the purpose of business isn't just to make money. And when you say that out loud, people are like, yeah, but like, which businesses are run just to make money? Most. And actually, I would argue quite strongly that if you work for a PLC, you are mandated. You are mandated as a PLC to prioritize shareholder return above everything else. That is what you are mandated to do. And if you don't do that and the share price drops, no matter how good your culture or sustainability, you'll get fired. So it's been a big part of my life the last, near 10 years. And I sat on the board of B-Lab, the charity that run the organization for nearly 5 years, and met lots of great friends. And this is a B Corp. And actually, I would only work for a company that is a B Corp or would become a B Corp.
Aspires to be one.
Yeah. I couldn't work for a company that has no interest in, no matter how much money they want to give me, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Which talks to your integrity and your authenticity as well, right?
Well, it's kind of again, I feel all worthy, but it goes to the kind of what's important to you.
Yeah. Taking that into account, transformer CEOs, do you think people who do what you've done and who lead with integrity and have out of kindness and still deliver amazing results, who combine the B Corp momentum, are they born or are they bred?
It feels like a question for I don't know, a psychologist or someone. I feel like I don't feel qualified to answer that question. Are they born or are they bred? I have no idea. I think you can. Well, I do have an idea. I think you can put these thoughts and ideas onto other people, can't you? You know, we all have. If we're lucky, I think we have people that can inspire us in our lives. And Paul was definitely someone. And my dad, who was a worked in the NHS as a consultant all his life, and that definitely, his whole life is dedicated to helping other people. And actually, I did a post in COVID times, and I didn't tell him I was doing this, and I said something like, "It's 8:30 in the morning. my dad, who's 82 years old, who's got a brain tumor, who's one of the most at-risk people in society at the moment, has already been at work for an hour vaccinating people at an NHS clinic in the Isle of Wight. I said, I'm sharing this for 3 reasons. One, I think it's like incredibly inspiring. Mm-hmm. 2, is it time we reassess how we value older people in business, because LinkedIn is a business thing. And 3, I said, I think it proves the thought that, or the argument that you can only get fulfillment in one way, and that's helping other people. And I showed it to my wife, and I was like, is this okay? And she's like, yeah, I mean, it's all right. So I sent it, boom, had a shower, because it was 8:30 in the morning. It was COVID, by the way. Came back and I was like, oh, it's got a bit of traction. It's like 5,000 people have liked it. That's kind of cool. Just did a bit of work, came back and I'm like, oh my God, it's like 500,000 people. That's quite a lot. And then it just went up and up and up.
There you go.
And then we get a call from our PR agency going, what have you done? I'm like, I don't know. Why? What's happened? Well, the head of the NHS wants to talk to you. And I was like, okay, sure, give him my number. And he calls me and says, we'd like to interview your dad. And I went, okay, well, what do you mean? Well, for all of our social media and stuff, because I think it's an amazing story. I said, okay, well, I haven't told him, so let me just have a chat with him and see. And I'm thinking, how am I going to phrase it to him? Because, he's just not going to like this at all. And then I get a call from the PR agency. Okay, so now we've got Sky News, BBC, Channel 4, like everyone wants to speak to him. And they're going to send, people down to the Isle of Wight to interview him. I'm like, okay, so this is now getting a bit tricky. So I call my dad and I say, so Dad, I did this post on you on LinkedIn. What's LinkedIn? I'm like, social media. And I'm expecting him to go, what's social media? And I'm like, so it's kind of, I didn't tell him the whole thing because I thought it'd be a bit embarrassed. He was like, well, just take it down, shut it down. I'm like, well, I can't really because loads of people have shared it. Well, can't you I'm like, no, I can't stop them sharing it. Well, how many people? I'm like, Dad, it's like, by this stage, it's many, many, many millions. Mm-hmm. And we've got celebrities. And I said, Dad, you should see the quotes. I mean, there are people like, he goes, just shut it down. And I said, well, the people, what do you want me to say to them? I'm like, the head of the NHS wants to speak to you. And he said, just say no. I'm not going to speak to anybody. He goes, because I'm not the hero. He said, people like your niece. So my niece had been rushed through as a junior doctor early. I don't know if you remember the story of that. They hadn't finished, they hadn't finished the course to become junior doctors, and they were just rushed straight into the front line. And she was put into Charing Cross, one of London's busiest hospitals, week 1, red ward, COVID ward, like having to tell families that loved ones had died. I mean, like how difficult is that as a very young girl? And he said, they're the heroes. I'm just doing my bit. I'm not going to do anything to take away from the people who are doing it every single day. I'm just doing a bit part. So I relayed this. And of course, everyone was like, we just want to interview him more now. I'm like, no, sorry.
Not going to happen.
So I definitely think in me, it's come, he would say no, but the good news is, everybody, there's 0 chance of him listening to this podcast because he doesn't even know what a podcast is. But he'd be really embarrassed and say, that's rubbish. But I think it's definitely, for me, it's come a bit from him. But then I think you can get these things so you talked about I talked about the responsibility of CEOs to get the next person and to inspire their team to maybe this is the way we should run this company. And it's a collective thing and it becomes a collective thing. So yeah, I definitely think as you get older, you pick up things from people of, maybe I do believe in autonomy because that does feel good. And maybe it wasn't my idea. Like I got the whole autonomy thing through meeting this guy, David Marquardt, who was a captain in the American Navy. And he's written this most amazing book that, again, has transformed my life about his story about what he did in a nuclear submarine, about putting autonomy through it. And he took it from the worst performing in history to the best performing in history, and probably could have been sent to jail because he wasn't allowed to do the things he did. But he basically put autonomy through his entire ship, and they got the best marks recorded after 2 years ever. in US naval history. But he said the reason why he wrote the book years later is because more people have gone on to captain ships that were under his command that's ever happened before. And, it doesn't take a genius to work out how are they going to captain those ships. They're going to captain those ships in the way that he captained them, because he inspired them and changed their life by showing them what his vision of being a captain was. And they've taken it on to other people. So I definitely think, so I've answered your question. No, I said I couldn't answer your question.
Brilliant. Amazing.
That's my divergent mind for you.
There you go. And maybe you've answered this one as well, because Transformer CEO or B Corp CEO, one time or for always?
What do you mean? Like for me?
Yeah.
As in, would I be, well, I don't know what the question is.
So it sounds like what you've said to me is that now that you've understood from Paul and your own learnings and then from the interaction with B Corp, which you helped to shape, that now the purpose of business is not just to make money, it has many other purposes. Yeah. So my question is that how you're going to be, or is that a one-time thing, or is that how you're always going to be now?
Oh, I think it's who I am. It's not a one-time thing. It's a core fundamental belief. And I was talking to one of my best friends actually last night, who runs a creative agency, CEO of creative agency. And I was saying, and it's really difficult in the creative industries at the moment for, ChatGPT and Midjourney and all these things that are coming and shaking things up. And I was saying to him, well, do you miss your old place? And he's a very inspiring CEO, and his old place was a B Corp. And he was like, no, because he said, you told me that, you thought I was unhappy because there was this clash of values. He had these personal values that weren't being reciprocated, by other people. And he was like, and you're right. So I think if I went somewhere else and it wasn't the same, I would just be unhappy.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. Yeah. So Transformer CEOs, do you think are going to be in higher or lower demand as you look forward in the next 5 years?
Oh, well, I hope they wouldn't be in demand at all, because all businesses would become B Corps.
There you go.
And then nothing needs to be transformed because we're all like happy and everything's cozy and cool.
And people who lead with the kind of authenticity you've talked about and kindness and some of the other qualities you outlined versus people who lead simply for profit. Do you think the former group, from a reward perspective, whether that's financial or emotional reward, deserve a premium?
Well, they're already getting the emotional reward.
Indeed.
Aren't they? Which is a much stronger, more important reward, really. And it's the reward you're going to be most proud of. I remember talking to my old boss, who was the CEO of a multinational company. And I remember saying to him, I was trying to get him to take sustainability more seriously. And I said to him, and I did the nursing home thing. I said, what are you going to be most proud of as you look back over your career? Is it going to be moving the share price from 20 to 25? And he said to me, you think I only care about money, don't you? And actually, I can say this now on the podcast. Yeah, I do. I think you only cared about the share price and your personal money. But don't try and work out who it was. And so, but I think when you get to your nursing home moment, the things that you're going to be most proud of are the things that you feel proud of. It's not going to be, we can't, Steve Jobs, great quote, always in the back of my mind. Who wants to be the richest person in the graveyard? What's the point? Really, and learned this from my wife, it's all about connections. It's all about spending time with people you love, like forming these deep connections, enjoying going to work because, you don't have, in the old days, Sunday night dread because you just love working with the people you love. So I think you already get those riches which are worth more. Should people be paid more that do that great work? Well, of course, in an ideal world, but you could take that to teachers. You could take that to, the critical workers in COVID times. Of course, they should be paid more. Like with the way we value things in society is wrong. And the amount of money that some people are paid, they are absolutely, in my mind, I'll start a war here, not worth it. They're not. They're not like a million times better than someone else. No, they're not. They're not a million times cleverer than someone else. No, they're not. Well, especially now we've got ChatGPT. No way. Like absolutely categorically, no way. I mean, there's some of the sums that people are being taken away by OpenAI to Facebook and given, contracts of $500 million. Really? That's not right, is it?
No. Mark, what an amazing conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat this morning. It's been very inspiring, very refreshing as well. I've loved your authenticity, and I've loved your stories as well. They really kind of bring it to life. So I want to offer a big thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy man. This, I'm sure, is taking up a lot of your time, as I'm sure other things are too. But we really appreciate you taking a couple of hours out this morning to come and talk to us.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed chatting to you today, Erik. And thanks for inviting me.